Welcome into the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart. Thank y'all for being here with us on this Monday the 16th. Thank y'all for taking the time to sit with us for a little bit. I got Clayton Harris on the controls in the studio. How are we, Clayton?
I'm doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
Doing well. I'm glad you had a good weekend. The blazer looks excellent. Did you get cold or try to get fancy?
Cold as hell.
Yeah, it did drop on us. I know, and I'm glad we had the weather gentleman on to start Three Dudes, and I hope everybody out there is. If you don't have power, I hope you're staying warm. If you do, I hope you're in touch with your neighbors who aren't. And not having power when it's cold out is a gigantic pain. So, thoughts and prayers for everybody who doesn't have it and the people who are in the process of trying to rectify the down power lines and get everybody back. I hope they're stay safe and get everybody back to working as soon as possible. But you said it was real bad there last night.
Yeah, I mean, there were areas where a potential tornado possibly could have hit. Not really sure. I'm sure the National Weather Service people will give an answer, but I know there's 12 poles were snapped in half. I mean, that's a lot of poles.
Yeah, you're saying it was like double what they had during the ice storm, which seems impressive because that's a lot of weight on those poles to not have that many go down, have more go down last night than during that. Because that was like sustained weight over a long period of time.
Right.
So for it to be worse, had to have been aggressive. So I hope everybody's safe out there and staying warm as best they can. Yeah, you touched on it near the end of Three Dudes, the other kind of more underreported story that's out there right now in Cuba. And I thought that would be how I'd start off today because we've spent the past 2 weeks kind of diving into the subtleties of Iran and how that's working out, some stuff with the SAVE Act, which we'll probably get into as that's made some updates. But the Cuba one has kind of fallen and taken second fiddle to the Iran conflict. And I guess the simple way to put it, we can just paint a picture here. You can imagine for a moment that it's 90 degrees in Havana and the power just went out again. The fans stop spinning, the air conditioners die with a creaking noise, and the street lights go dark. And then off in the silent distance, you can hear people banging pots and pans like they have for months on end in protest. Because the lights have been out maybe for hours, maybe for days. And the interesting part about it is it's not because of some hurricane or a storm or a war. It's happening because of one of the most, consequential geopolitical battles on Earth is unfolding right now 90 miles south of Florida. And almost nobody's talking about it because, like I said before, bombs and explosions lead the news. The absence of explosions and the absence of lights, blackouts, they don't. And history has shown something pretty clear is that governments can survive a lot of things, but they struggle to survive when the lights stop coming back on. And if it sounds like a small story, stay with me because it gets a lot more interesting in about 30 seconds. Because the reason Cuba's power grid is failing right now comes down to one simple thing: oil. And for years, Cuba had survived on a very convenient economic arrangement. Venezuela shipped heavily subsidized oil to the island. In return, Cuba provided doctors, intelligence advisors, and political support for the Venezuelan government. It was a tidy little socialist partnership in the Caribbean and South America, and it kept the lights on. I mean, like literally. But when Nicolas Maduro lost power or was taken from his bedroom, however you want to see it, that pipeline of cheap oil dried up real quick. And suddenly, Cuba ran into a very old problem that centrally planned economies tend to run into sooner or later, running out of other people's money. Turns out revolutionary slogans can start a movement, but they cannot power a power grid. And that's where the story starts to get interesting, because the United States didn't sit back and just watch it unfold. Washington began applying, additional economic pressures, sanctions, tariff threats, restrictions, and, aimed at countries helping fuel shipments reach the Cuban government. And that pressure started to squeeze, which brings us to the question that really matters is why does the United States care about Cuba so much in the first place? For a lot of younger Americans, Cuba feels like a relic from the Cold War, file of threats. A place with vintage cars, old communist slogans, and stuck on island time as like a time capsule to a bygone era. But geopolitically, Cuba has never stopped being important. It's 90 miles south of Florida, and for decades, it's hosted intelligence operations tied to our biggest adversaries, the USSR, Russia, China. Russia, signals intelligence facilities have operated there for years, like on the northwestern coast, all along it. Chinese intelligence cooperation expanded a lot more there in the past, 10 years. So, like, in other words, Cuba isn't just a struggling communist island. They are also moonlighting as a listening post for our biggest adversaries and a foothold in the area. So, a strategic outpost sitting right on our doorstep. And when hostile intelligence services are sitting 90 miles from your coastline, it stops being someone else's problem and it becomes your problem. And now, if you take that and zoom out for a moment, because Cuba isn't the only place that's under pressure right now, just look at the map: Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, three governments that have spent decades aligning themselves against the United States, three regimes deeply tied into the same web of political alliances. And now all three are facing pressure at roughly the same time from the exact same source. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that all three of these are part of a master plan rolled out in a White House briefing room, because foreign policy rarely works that cleanly. But it does suggest that there is something that is strategically familiar. Sometimes the fastest way to weaken a regime isn't invasion, it's isolation. It's you cut the financing, you cut the oil, you cut the lifelines. Because authoritarian governments can survive protests. We've seen it before. They can survive sanctions. We've seen it a ton. They can even survive like scathing international criticism. What they struggle to survive is angry citizens, empty treasuries, empty stomachs, all at the same time. And right now in Cuba, all of those pressures are doubling down all at the same time. The lights are going out for 20 hours a day. Fuel is running incredibly low. Protests begun appearing again in several cities at massive scale. And reports indicate the Cuban government has quietly started talks with the United States to try to get out. And that's what you were alluding to earlier, Clayton, was that the Castros and some of the other people in power were trying to have some sort of negotiated step down. But regime change is not imminent, nor has it been like addressed, but it clearly is in the cards, because they can't keep going on like this. Because systems like Cuba's often survive far longer than outside observers would expect them to. And the Castro government has weathered economic crises before. And authoritarian systems are really good at blaming their failures on outside enemies and galvanizing internally. If you control the messaging, the media, and everything else, you can reframe it to where it doesn't get completely out of hand. But this has been going on for so long that the people are hungry enough to turn the TV off and go to the streets, because it can be confusing, because it's the political equivalent of setting your own house on fire and then blaming the neighbor for not putting batteries in your smoke detector or whatever. Like, the risks are real here. The humanitarian suffering is the most obvious one. When shortages hit, ordinary people suffer the most, not the government officials who we have the issues with. And there's a possibility of migration surges if the situation continues to deteriorate further. We've seen that many times from Cuba over the years. And there's a chance that Russia or China could step in more aggressively to make an effort to stabilize the regime. Because on the world of geopolitics, it rarely produces clean victories. But there are potential positives in a lot of them because if economic pressure forces real reforms inside Cuba, the island could begin moving towards a more open system, and that benefits the world, and specifically the United States. If Russian and Chinese intelligence operations lose their foothold there, that changes the strategic map in the entire Caribbean. And if the Cuban people themselves gain more leverage over their government, that could reshape the island's future for generations. But the larger point being that sometimes the most consequential geopolitical fights don't look like a war. Sometimes they look like empty fuel depots, dark city blocks, and quiet negotiations happening behind closed doors. And, Iran is dominating the headlines right now because bombs are way louder than sanctions. But history has shown again and again that economic pressure can move political systems in ways that bombs sometimes never can. And not every war starts or ends with gunfire. And a ton start and end when fuel stops showing up. And if the lights keep going out in Havana, don't be surprised if the world suddenly starts paying attention to Cuba again, because when the lights go out in a place that's been really strategically important for 70 years, it usually means something bigger is happening behind the scenes. And this time it might be no different. And so I think it's worth keeping an eye on in light of everything that kind of is flooding your feed at the moment, because this is another very interesting geopolitical chess piece being kind of put into a fork. Chess reference for those out there. They kind of have to choose their own mystery here as to how they want to proceed. They want to Cuba wants to dig their heels in, try to make it on their own, or forge other alliances. Like we've stopped some ghost shipments of oil from China and Russia to Cuba in the subsequent weeks, put sanctions on those who were willing to trade, and they backed off very quickly. So they are more or less on their own until they decide to come to the table. And this one, we talk about the things that really get people going, get people angry. It's not the actual things themselves. It's how those things are covered, how they are being told to believe, what they're being told to be outraged about. And this one has not garnered the media outrage machine yet because they're preoccupied, but it is worth keeping an eye on, at least know what's going on there, because it's not as pizzazzy as the Iran war. It doesn't have it's not leading the headlines, but it is almost equally as important, especially given the proximity of Cuba, the 70-year long, tenuous relationship that we've had with them and their leadership and their close ties to our biggest adversaries for that long. It's worth keeping an eye on, and I don't know how much longer they'll last longer than you think, but I don't know if oil doesn't start showing up soon. There's no way they can, because they don't have any oil to drill on the island. They don't have any of those natural resources. They need other people to do it. And that's kind of where the aspect of socialism, communism, and everything else kind of goes to die, is when the rubber hits the road and you need to trade or do commerce and you don't have the infrastructure, the finances, or the ability to trade goods for goods. Then you're kind of stuck, and you have to be able to engage in the world economy in order to be a participant. And they're not just going to give you stuff. The Venezuelan deal worked for a while strictly because it was two of the only socialist ones making barter trades, more or less, oil for expertise in one way or another. But now that that's gone, they don't really have anybody else who's willing to make such a deal. So I don't know where they go. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I mean, have you heard anything kind of different than that, Clayton? Or
I have not. That's about the same thing I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those things being like what Mr. York was saying, like we don't know the one reason why we're doing it. It's not one reason. There's so many, and I think between Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, all of these things are tangentially attached to one another, because it is about a stabilization of oil, and then kind of taking out the nefarious actors who have been, for the most part, it's a relatively stable trade, but there are some rogue actors over the past 40, 50, 60, 20, 30 years, however far you want to go back on all of them, that have been living in some financial gray areas, if not full-on black market areas, that have destabilized a lot of areas, caused a lot of humanitarian problems, but at a macro scale have caused the global oil market to not be representative of what it is, because these massive nations are working on the outskirts of legality and propping up hostile regimes that, if they had to work in color within the lines, would not be allowed to be doing what they're doing. And that's where we need to not look at it as just overthrowing the Ayatollah or just doing it. It's about trying to smooth out these variable nations that have instilled a bit of chaos, some more than others. Iran certainly a ton more. I mean, Venezuela just starved its own people and helped Cuba out, and was also a bit of drug trafficking. It's not quite bombs and proxy forces and nuclear weapons, but they do act as destabilizing forces. And the more of those you can take off the board, the better, for stability for everybody involved. But it's not pretty getting there, and I'm interested to see how it goes and what both in this, Iran, how Venezuela, because we don't talk about Venezuela anymore because that's going relatively smoothly on our behalf, and that doesn't make the news as much anymore. It might be worth getting into a bit more because that was, we kidnapped the president in less time than it took to watch an episode of Breaking Bad, and then there was a big deal for like 3 days, and then the succession plan worked pretty well. And then no one's complaining about it anymore. And we moved on to the next thing because it worked. And that's kind of the problem, is that it's an outrage and then it works. And now we're not talking about it anymore. And as we're in the middle of something, the only people who are against it are just talking about how terrible it's going to be. And then inevitably, if it works out fine, every one of those takes or every one of those hypothetical realities that we could be living in just goes by the wayside, and then they move on to the next thing to be upset about. And there's no accountability for being incorrect anymore, and no one has to be like, well, I was wrong about that. I didn't see that coming. Awesome. That worked out really well. No one has that. It's still, I was upset at the time because insert thing here, or I didn't know thing here. It's always about, it's so much more about being perceived to have been right than actually being right, or to perceive to have been morally virtuous as opposed to being intellectually sound or intellectually honest, to be like, I was wrong. Or, I still don't like Trump, but this one did go pretty well. Whatever it may be, no one ever says that part. It's just doubling down or pretending like you never said the things you said before and moving on to the next thing. The DHS funding stuff we got going on is crazy because they want them to stop.
That's right.
What they're asking for doesn't make any sense, because they want them to set, like, when they're the ones who set, the Congress and the Senate are the ones who set the laws by which ICE functions and how they do their jobs. They haven't changed any of those. It's just the outrage machine is louder. But like I said before, it's dying down. And then if people are waiting 6 hours to go through security at Austin Airport, their constituents will start to get more angry about it. And I don't think this lasts very long. This is a posturing hill to die on. People don't care about ICE as much as they did a couple weeks ago. And,
they're just, I mean, let's be honest. And look, this is coming from myself, which I'm an independent.
Disagreeable.
But they're looking for whatever story makes the Trump administration or Trump look bad. And not only that, Jeb, I get the sense that they're pulling against our troops. Like they're wanting bad things to happen. They want to be able to point their finger at Trump so bad that they're willing for bad things to happen to Americans just so they can have that story. You can hear it in Mr. York's voice when he talks, now on our show in the mornings. You can just tell he's not rooting for the U.S. He's not rooting for the troops. He's rooting for a bad story that affects the Trump administration. That's just my opinion.
No, you can see it. I mean, like Hakeem Jeffries coming out being like, we're going to lose this. That was like one of the first things he said, and it was like, a lot of people are going to die, and we're going to lose this. It's a folly on Trump's part. I mean, it's and then as soon as something goes bad, the friendly fire incident or the refueler, the cargo refueler that went down, and all of they talk about the brave service members who lost their lives, and it immediately switches to gloating about them being right, Trump being wrong, and them being like it. They're standing on the graves of people to make a point about somebody else being wrong and choosing that to be the moment. I feel like I made this analogy before, but it'd be like crossing the ocean on a boat and being like, I feel like that's not very, that part of the hull is not very strong. We probably should reinforce that. Everyone's like, it's fine. And then it cracks. And instead of helping to fix it, you just walk around being like, told you so, told you so. Like, you're on the boat too. It's sinking. Like, this is not the time to take laps of "I told you so." Like, you're on the boat, it's sinking. Like, help fix it. Whether you were right or wrong doesn't really matter at this point, because you're on that boat too, and you should hope that it makes it across the ocean. No one cares if you're right or wrong if you're at the bottom of the ocean. So, I mean, I think that that's kind of where they're going, because I mean, it's been the case for, it'll be coming up on well over a decade that, I mean, it's before 2016, but it's not that they stand for anything. It's just they're against Trump. And that's a really weird political, ideological place to be in, because if you only stand against something, then you have to be against everything that person is for.
That's why I believe we're the closest we've ever been since the 1850s to a break, a divorce in this country. I'm just telling you.
I think it's close enough, but it's also not. It's not regionally bifurcated like it was before, to where like whole states would say, "All right, we're out," and it would get to that. I mean, even in the places in the South and things like that, the major cities and everything else, we're not going to have some clean rip Band-Aid of secession or any of that. But it's just people.
What I think you do have, though, Jeb, is people who love this country and people who actually hate it and hate everything that it represents. I think that's what the separation between the two will be, between those who love this country and those who absolutely hate everything about it and everything it represents. Because that's essentially the arguments that you get now.
Well, I had someone text me the news is playing underneath our thing again. I don't know if we got to do a reset at the break, but
we're up against a break now. We'll take a look at it and see what we got, and yeah.
Perfect. We will see y'all after the break. Thank y'all for being in the middle of it.
This is Coach Tredaris Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give you all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back. In the middle of it, I'm Jeb Hart. Glad to be here with y'all this Monday morning. Got Clayton back in the studio on the producer controls. How are we, Clayton?
Doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
I'm glad to be here with you. Did you get anything this weekend?
Man, we had, let's see, what do we have going on this weekend? We had baseball Friday, baseball Saturday, Little League practice, some more baseball yesterday. We had softball tryouts for the younger two girls, my youngest two kids. So, yeah, that was about it. Went and had some dinner last night, watched the World Baseball Classic, and watched the U.S. beat a really good Dominican Republic team 2-1. And, yeah, that was about it. What about you?
So just you got a lot of baseball and baseball adjacent activities.
Correct.
Softball, baseball adjacent is. No, we had second baseball practice on Saturday, but it's also his spring break, so there's like 4 kids there. And they're actually leaving. My wife and older son are heading for a few days to do a little southern road trip to go to some amusement parks and do some fun stuff. But I'm staying here with the little one, so we're going to have little father-son time in the absence because he's just turned 3. So we don't normally see him every day, but one-on-one, I don't get a ton of like extended time. So I'm looking forward to that.
That'd be fun.
But yeah. He's at the age, because you kind of have the shift as the boys get older. When they're much younger, they're all about their mom. Then they get a little bit older, they want to come hang out with the dad a bit more, and it kind of shifts. So we're on that. He's 3 now, so we get to the little cresting of the hill. So we'll see how she goes. But I know when we talked about going through the stuff that's happening in Cuba that's not making the headlines, and kind of went into the Venezuela thing before. And I was thinking about it at the break because, when that happened, like we discussed before, it was the biggest thing in the world. It was, an attack on a country's sovereignty, and it'll send, South America into chaos. And a lot of people just in their heads, when they're talking about the timeline of these narratives, they think that the whole situation in Venezuela went by the wayside because it was usurped by the Iran war, and that took, prime billing. But in reality, you stopped hearing about what was happening in Venezuela very shortly afterwards because it actually worked. We didn't just destabilize, this nation. Like the government got stable really quickly. All of the humanitarian crises have kind of leveled out. The migration problems that were starting from people fleeing Venezuela have leveled off. We kind of cut in front of the line of Chinese and Russian influence in that area. You know, there was rapid stabilization. There was no prolonged war. You know, there was bigger global crises around, but we helped with the narcotics and the Trinidad Aragua stuff. The migration pressure has slowed down. You know, increased influence over the Caribbean energy flows from the United States and a lot of our, you know, territories down there and allies. And, you know, it worked really well. So people stopped complaining about it. And, you know, even those who were complaining about it didn't say good job. They just stopped talking about it and moved on to another thing to complain about. And now that's just a footnote when in reality, it's one of the most successful, you know, hour operations in military history that led to stabilization with a singular move. You know, the Iranian thing's a lot more complicated because it's not, you know, a cult of personality or a dictator at the top who, if you take them off the system, it's, you know, there's religious based and a ton of people who, it's not one guy. The Ayatollah was in charge of it, but it's religiously based. So, you know, the whole ideology behind what keeps it stable is a bit more ingrained. But, you know, I feel like we don't celebrate the wins as much because we just want the people who want to complain about it just want something to be upset about. And that's where, like, if you can't pat yourself on the back for a win, everything feels like a loss or it's pointless or wasn't worth it or we should have been taking care of things at home. I mean, like, I guess you were saying that we can't fund DHS. We got to take care of things at home. Homeland is in the name of that. Like, it's just that sometimes the homeland security and things that are putting Americans first are sometimes not things just directly within there's ripple effects. We live in a global economy, whether you want to or not. You can be kind of nationalistic or isolationist or whatever, but that doesn't mean the chickens don't come home to roost or it's not going to come to your front door in one way or another, be it a bill or a bomb. You know, you have to be able to make sure that you are, you know, positioned to where you either see those threats coming or react to them proactively ahead of time, or you get caught in the whirlwind of, you know, the ripple effects because, you know, you didn't see them coming or you thought it was none of your business. But to put blinders on and then say you don't see it doesn't make you virtuous. It makes you willfully ignorant because you're choosing to just be like, none of my business, none of my business. That's fine in small doses, but you can't look at the world through just, you know, gift wrapper tubes and just have tunnel vision towards one thing and assume that nobody's going to knock you in the back of the head. So, I mean, we're talking about things with the Iran thing as it comes up and as it still continues to. Right now, it's moved from, as Trump and a lot of the military officials have said, that like there's not really any major infrastructure really left to target. There's, you know, a few things that are around the Strait of Hormuz that are really small, you know, individual like rocket launchers or these unmanned torpedo submarine thingies that are in there, and the minesweeping boats and the Mosquito fleet and some of these smaller ones. But all the major infrastructure stuff has been taken out. So what they've done now, and this is a huge thing, it took 4 years in Iraq to get to, but it was where you had people on the ground who had been in contact with either the CIA or the military calling in strikes on, you know, 2 to 5 man like checkpoints. Be like, they're at this corner road. And in Iran, that was the big, because those, if you're talking about wanting people on the ground to have an uprising, they're not scared of the underground bunker facilities or the, you know, ballistic missile, you know, underground, you know, depositories or missile launching. They're scared about the guys on the corner of their street who are going to stop them and beat them up or throw them in jail or shoot them or check for papers. Or so those are just the lowest level ones are the ones that the populists are the ones who they interact with the most at those, you know, border crossing things at the edges of towns or at those police stations. So once that's what they've moved to now, is targeting those. And those are the ones that, because before that didn't seem like it was a solid use of time, because you need to get rid of the big stuff before you can have the air superiority or air dominance to just send those, you know, B-52 bombers in there to just take laps and drop the smart guided close range bombs into those small areas in cities where the people are at the corner. That way people feel more emboldened to rise up. So that's where we are now. Like I said, it took 4 years in Iraq to get to the point where we had, in theater people on the ground calling in airstrikes, and we have that in, a few weeks, and it's ahead of that. So anybody who says that they thought the regime would topple as soon as they blew everybody up is, ridiculous. It's not how that works. They have succession plans. They have a lot of stuff. They also have propaganda. They control the media, the radio, shut down the internet. It's a slow process to realize how bad it's gotten for the regime at street level, because without the internet, without the ability to travel to see other things, without the news, they're only getting these AI scripted things that say they're blowing up ships, killing thousands of Americans, and saying that Americans have abandoned their bases and ran away, when they abandoned them before any of this. They moved forces around. It's just about trying to control them to think that Iran is winning, so that they don't actually get any ideas about how vulnerable they are, and getting that in there. I know there's stuff with the Kurds coming in. So there's been tons of rumors about the Kurdish forces coming in from eastern Iraq into Iran, and I don't know where. Have you heard any update on that? Because I know like last week there was apparently some had done something, but some hadn't, and then the CIA said they were helping, but the CIA doesn't normally say things like that. It was all very confusing to me.
The last I heard was that was not an option, that they were not going to use any of the Kurds to go in and fight a ground war in Iran.
I'm old enough to remember when the CIA would have kept that to themselves.
Right. So I don't know where that came from or whatever, but Trump explicitly came out and said that wasn't going to happen. So I don't know. I did just see a report where 2,500 Marines are heading over there. So I don't know what that means. I'm sure they're going to be stationed somewhere outside of Iran. But I think some of this is just posturing on our part, just to, give the sense of the threat of a possible ground invasion. But I just don't see.
Yeah, I mean, him saying they wouldn't do that seems odd to me, when you just want to leave everything up to be like, I don't know. Because he's kind of handled everything like that up until this point, like leaving nothing off the table, and then he took that off the table. Like whether you're going to do it or not doesn't really matter. The threat that it's possible means they have to, divert resources and time to planning what to do if that should come to pass. So, I mean, I think that part's weird, but the Marines getting there, I know with the island, you can't secure that by bombing because there's so much oil infrastructure there they don't want to, ruin, because that's going to take a while to build back up. When we talk about stabilization of the region, then if you blow all that up, because I mean, it's sitting there and easily able to be blown up, but that's not what we want. So it does require that. And I don't know how well Marines on Cork Island would sit politically. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they could spin it as it's not actually Iran, it's an island off of it. We're not in Iran. When everybody knows what it is. I think that would go over poorly. And I think, but also I don't know where they go if they can't get boots on the ground there, because Cork Island's one where, like, if they had the Kurds coming in, I don't think they're going to go over in any way on a boat to that island. So it's going to have to be us or somebody else to do it. And unless they fall or come to terms, I don't know what the next step is without boots. And I know that that's going to go over like a lead balloon with almost everybody. So again, I like this with everything else. We'll see, because I know they haven't said everything or told everything that's going on or what they're planning. 'Cause that's part of any military operation, is secrecy, surprise, and all that. But if they have to put boots on the ground, I know that's going to go over poorly. It might be necessary depending on how close they are to the finish line, but I know that's going to not go great.
No, it won't be good at all. I can only imagine how the media will run with it too. So
yeah, between the media and just his base and everybody else, and like I said, I think I said this when it first happened. For anybody who says that it's a distraction, for the very like, oh, he invaded Iran because he wanted people to stop talking about the Epstein files is such a ridiculous. If this was politically motivated, he would not have done it before midterm elections. This is a real touchy thing. If it goes great, there's a chance it, is one of the greatest things to happen in, the world of geopolitics in a long time. But also, if it goes bad, it could sink the second half of his presidency if they lose the Senate and Congress because it's a quagmire that they got themselves into. So it was not a politically motivated maneuver to try to distract or gain. It was something that they had conviction in, thought the timing was necessary to happen now. It's not as cynically, political as the people who are against it would like to, make it out to be, because nobody who of a political actor would be like, what you should do? Start a foreign war right before an election without them attacking us or any of that. That's a really great idea. People love that. No. So it's not, it can be wrong, it can be right, but the motivation behind being politically motivated, I think, is a silly one because it doesn't bear out under any scrutiny that that's the case.
I tell you, one of the most disturbing things as far as, like I've always said, the hypocrisy of all this, of politics in general, just makes me sick. But you look at, like, for example, CNN just had the national gas price average up on their screen. It's funny that when the gas prices go up, it's an indictment on Trump and this, that, whatever. And yet, when the gas prices go down, it has nothing to do with Trump whatsoever. Only when they go up. So again, it's disgusting.
Well, I think that's true of everything, and it's true of both parties, because when people say, look, any economic policy that a president puts in place doesn't fix whatever problem it was designed to, or exacerbate whatever problem it was designed to fix in one day or a year. A lot of times the run out time, 5-10 years before you have enough data to see if it worked or didn't work. So every president who takes office is inheriting, 250 years worth of policies, precedent, statutes, Supreme Court rulings, congressional laws, legislature, and bylaws and all that. You're inheriting a bunch of stuff, and it's so much easier just to say, you did this, it's your fault, I don't like you, this. Then when it goes well, to dismiss it for that's actually an Obama era policy that led to everybody can frame it and add in information or omit information that either helps or doesn't help their point, when it's not actually, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Right.
Because, the decision to drop a bomb can be one president's, but the price of gas, or there's so many different things when it drops down. Like the thing the other day was 119 under Biden. That was because inflation is transitory and not his fault, and that's okay. But when the price for oil is less than the 119 it was under Biden, then it's all Trump's fault and the world's going to end, and every single major player in the world economy will be crippled because of his actions. But 119, it's passing, it'll be fine. We can weather the storm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so over the selective outrage. I guess that's the point. I mean, it's all selective outrage by the media and by the Democrats. You see it on both sides, but it's just, as an observer, it's just almost unbearable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was Bill Maher had Adam Schiff on, might have been a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
It was a week ago Friday. He got him good too.
Yeah, for those of y'all who didn't see it, they were talking about, it was like, do you think that there's enough justification for this war in Iran? He goes, no, absolutely not. They have to, congressional approval and all that. He goes, all right, let me read you a statement from the White House. It was like, upon legal review and precedent in history, targeted attacks were well within the purview of the president and does not require congressional approval to act in the best interest of the United States. And he goes, does that seem too vague to you? And he was like, absolutely way too vague. You can't go down. He goes, that was President Obama for the bombings in Yemen and Somalia. And then he was like, well, that president asked Congress, he said, well, he did the Gang of Eight and all of those. None of it was different. It's just to be outraged by one doing it versus the other. making the biggest deal in the world and that of one side doing it, silence when yours because one tiny difference that you choose to highlight makes it somehow completely acceptable. When he was like, he asked Congress, no, but I mean, Obama didn't. He had the White House counsel's office, I believe, is what he had said, like write something up. So he checked with a lawyer. Like, yes, of course they checked with lawyers before they did any of this. Like, they're not going to start a war involving that many people, and nobody's going to be like, hey, let's make sure we got our boxes checked here. Of course they did all of those things, but it's not good enough for Schiff. But the other version was, and it's the selective outrage that makes every single, it's really hard to start to look at things objectively as to whether or not they're good or bad if you just have a singular source as to who's giving you the thumbs up or the thumbs down on a policy, because it's basically at this point, if the other side does it, it has to be a thumbs down. And that's not a good way to move, because you can't, if you this is true in life, politics, business, if you judge your happiness off the success or failures of others, you're never going to be happy. And if your entire political strategy is just to watch the other people fail and claim victory when you did nothing except say that's going to fail, and then that is your justification for your righteous correctness, is that you called something was going to be wrong. They're like, what would you have done different? And you're like, I don't know what I would have done different. I just knew that wasn't going to work. See, I'm right. I'm real smart. And then bring nothing to the table to rectify or fix it. It's just the victory is in the failure of others, is not an actual victory, especially if you're on the same boat.
It's like listening to Mr. York on Three Dudes for a year and a half, 2 years, talk about how we needed to continue to give billions of dollars of weapons and money to Ukraine for their war because they were invaded. And yet Iran can kill, 10,000 protesters, if not more, against a regime that literally would kill every American if they could. All of a sudden they have a problem with that. Again, it's about who's doing it, when it's happening, and it's about selective outrage. It's about what.
Well, it's who's doing it, but also who is saying that it should be supported, and who is saying that it's not, because you put the Ukrainian flag on your Twitter bio when it's just Russia invaded them. Yeah, they did, and they probably shouldn't have. NATO expansion was off the table, but they wanted to do it anyway. There was tons of lead up to it. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it's weird to me that the left was so hawkish on the support of the war and sending money over there and being a part of it. Them being so gung-ho on that war always sat weird with me. Because I never got why they were so, just about that life. It always threw me off, because with, a lot of the battles that go in the Palestine thing, I understand that kind of falls into the normal power dynamic structures that feed protest culture of, the white Western Middle Eastern Israelis are hurting the, subjugated, and that's the power dynamics that work and everything. But in these sort of things, it kind of throws them for a loop, because the LGBTQIA rights are not a Iranian strong suit. Women's rights are not an Iranian strong suit, but they are a Muslim nation, which means that they are, persecuted against with Islamophobia. So they have to stick up for that. Like, they're in a catch-22 of the things that they want to protest for and protest against, but never outweighs who. Because if somebody on the right wants something, then it doesn't matter the subtleties of it. They have to be against it. And that is not a solid cornerstone of ideology. But we will catch y'all in the second hour. Thank y'all so much for being here with us, and we'll see y'all in just a few.
High School Football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Robert Rogers at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
And I'm Michael Parks Lawrence at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
Together, we're Mr. Bobby Parks' grandsons, and we run his dealership, and we are glad to be part of our local community.
Being family-owned and operated, we invest heavily in our community.
We do things like sports teams, schools, bands, you name it. We try to help everybody we can.
The reason why we do this is because we all love this community.
So come do business with us, your neighbors, at Parks Motor Sales in Columbia, Tennessee, right off Nashville Highway, or at parksmotorsales.com.
Let's talk custom design jewelry. Did you know Tillis Jewelry in downtown Columbia creates custom design jewelry and has been for over 30 years? From one-of-a-kind engagement rings to wedding bands and so much more. We want each piece to be as unique as you are and create a family heirloom for tomorrow. Call today and make an appointment with one of our designers. And just for calling, you will receive a free 30-minute consultation. Tillis Jewelry, creating custom jewelry proudly in Tennessee.
Spring starts at Trips Ace Hardware. On Saturday, April 25th, join us for our 5th annual Spring Day. Our garden center will be in full bloom. Explore premium grills from Rectech, Weber, and Big Green Egg with live demos throughout the day, and Milwaukee Tool on site with a full demo tent. Come see us at 112 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Thanks for shopping local at Trips Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Do you have trees that need trimming or removed? Do you have stumps that you want grounded? A1 Tree Trimming and Removal is a family-owned and operated business local to Columbia and Lewisburg. They also service surrounding Middle Tennessee. We are licensed and insured and provide free estimates. No job is too big, no tree is too small. Give old Luke a call or text Luke at 931-359-3113. Or you can check them out on Facebook and tell A1 Tree Removal that you heard this ad on the radio. If you love America, then you will love A1 Tree Removal.
You're not just a homeowner, you're also an ice maker that didn't read the job description owner. Fortunately, you've got heating and cooling built and tested to keep going. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, built to a higher standard.
Call Davis Heating and Cooling at 931-388-2090 for all your home comfort needs. Davis Heating and Cooling is your local independent American Standard dealer and proudly serves the Murray County area. Find Davis Heating and Cooling online and on Facebook or call today, 388-2090.
This is Debbie Matthews with the Nashville Realty Group, and if you've been paying attention, you know the housing market has been tough, but rates are beginning to thaw. So if you're thinking about selling, the time to jump in is getting better every day. But if you're thinking about buying, and those interest rates are still a little bit too high, a good agent knows how to negotiate interest rate buydowns, and I'm a good agent. So call me, Debbie Matthews with Nashville Realty Group, 615-476-3224.
Hi, I'm Matt Perales, manager of Murray County Equipment. We help you with all your agriculture and construction equipment needs. We carry a full line of New Holland tractors from compacts to high horsepower. We have a full line of Gravely mowing equipment. We also have New Holland construction equipment, attachments, and accessories for your tractors and a complete parts department. We are locally owned and operated. Come see us at 1075 North James Campbell Boulevard or learn about us on Facebook or contact us at 931-490-8183.
This is Trip Stoltz with Columbia Ace Hardware. I love listening to 101.7 WKOM FM, Columbia, Tennessee.
The Mules are back in town, April 9th to 11th at the Murray County Park, Columbia, Tennessee. Live music, vendors, contests, and yes, mules. Mule pulling, gated mules, mule scrambles, and more. Join us Thursday through Saturday at the Murray County Park. Don't miss the Mule Day Parade, 11 a.m. Saturday, April 11th. Visit muleday.com for a complete schedule of events. Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Happy you'll be, or the service is free. And the Murray County Visitors Bureau. Plan your visit now at experiencemurray.com.
Discover Prime and Pint in downtown Columbia, where great food meets great company. Join us for weekly specials. Tuesday is Texas Tuesday, with a rotating menu that gives back to local causes. Wednesday is half-off burgers and pints all day long. And on Thursday, don't miss our prime rib dinner carved fresh by our chef. Make your night memorable at Prime and Pint, 105 East 6th Street, Columbia. Prime and Pint Butchery and Public House.
On the farm, uptime isn't just nice to have, it's a must-have. That's why JLG Ag telehandlers are a multitasking workhorse. Whether moving and loading more, stacking higher, or even accessing tighter spots with compact models, these machines help poultry, cotton, and row crop producers maximize every moment on the job. Once you get behind the wheel, you'll get more done. It's that simple. See JLG Ag telehandlers for yourself. Come out to Try Green Equipment in Columbia, just off Theta Pike.
Welcome back to our second hour of In the Middle of It. I'm Jeb Hart, happy to be here with you today. As sometimes always, got Clayton Harris on the controls of the producer's booth. How are we, Clayton?
Doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
Good morning to you as well. Anything on your mind you want to talk about before we get to some other things? What's percolating around up there?
Well, I just read a report, and then I got your dad's text that the president has been briefed from intelligence that the new Ayatollah is gay. And I'm just curious how that works in the Muslim world, having a gay Ayatollah.
Okay. I'm looking at it now. It's a text message sent to a group by my father, so I don't have any sourcing as to.
New York Post just reported it.
That he was outed as gay.
Yeah, by our intelligence folks. There was already there was already some stuff coming out about this dude's sexual life. If you remember from about a week or two ago, and now it's apparently he's.
Is the son, the new Ayatollah, is he the one that owns like $100 million worth of property in London?
I'm not sure.
That might have been the one that was the interim Ayatollah that was killed, but he owned like a bunch of stuff in Belgravia and London, and I know that people had talked about that with like Keir Starmer and stuff. Like they seized a bunch of the assets from the Russian oligarchs who had similar townhomes in those really nice areas of London. Any of the boats that were in British shipyards were seized from the Russian oligarchs, and yet. The Ayatollah's properties and stuff remained completely untouched and all that. I watched some BBC reporting, or it might have been GBN, them like kind of going to the gates of these properties and trying to talk to the residents of who was there, because they've done nothing with it. Yet they dropped the hammer on Roman Abramovich, who was a Russian oligarch who owned Chelsea Football Club, was forced to sell it because of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. Yeah, this part is okay. I know they talked about that a ton. I got to look up what the whole stuff is with the outing, because if I'd like to be very clear, that's the first I've seen of any of that. I heard rumblings, but without anything backing it, internet rumbles I take as hyperbole at first glance until there's something a little substantial behind it. If that was the case, it wouldn't be that shocking though, because it wouldn't be that shocking if they just let it slide, because the regime and the people in like the mullah class over there have never lived by the same rules that they enforce on everybody else. If you look at whoever the third guy in charge in the regime, there was videos of his daughter's wedding, and like she was in a white dress with like her, not a hijab, like he was in a suit. The other women there were in very nice dresses without head coverings. Yet that would be absolutely illegal for anybody of the common ilk to have a wedding like that. Yet that was his at Western Music and all that, and that's okay because they're in charge and they're allowed to. So if he was gay, I'm sure they would have some weird clerical caveat for why it's allowed for him and not for others, or they just bury it.
So this is the headline from today's New York Post. It says, Trump briefed that Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is probably gay, and the president has a priceless reaction. President Trump was stunned to learn last week that U.S. intelligence indicates new Iranian supreme leader Mojtaba Khamenei may be gay, and that his father, the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, feared his suitability to rule the Islamic Republic for that reason, the Post revealed. Trump could not contain his surprise and laughed out loud when he was briefed on intel, according to sources. Others in the room also found it hilarious and joined the president's reaction, while one senior intelligence official has not stopped laughing about it for days, said one person familiar with the briefing. The shocking claim was described to the Post by 2 intelligence community officials and a third person close to the White House. All 3 sources say the implausible-sounding allegation is viewed as credible by U.S. spy agencies rather than false information intended to undermine Kiamani, 56, who was selected to replace his dead father as Supreme Leader on March 8th. 2 of the sources said the intelligence indicated that Motaba had earned the nickname the Power Behind the Robes while serving as his aging father's gatekeeper, and has had a long-term sexual relationship with his childhood tutor. The third source said the intelligence indicated the affair was with a person who formerly worked for the Kiamani family. Motaba, who is believed to have been wounded in the same February 28th airstrike that killed his father and other members of his family, has made aggressive sexual overtures to men caring for him, possibly while under the influence of heavy medication, one of the Post sources said. The U.S. spy agencies do not have photographic evidence of Motaba Kiamani's alleged sexual attraction to men, but sources insisted the tip is solid, with one saying it was derived from one of the most protected sources that the government has. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Interesting. I mean, it's weird to think about that being, if that was the case, how big of an issue it would be for I think for the public there who is only getting the propaganda news, they'll just tell them that it's a Western lie and they'll get over it and move on. But if it does have legs, it is true, that does really spark those sort of sentiments of rules for thee, not for me type of hatred that's already exists because of the financial disparities and, the different rules applied to the people in power versus them, because the things that they're getting shot for or arrested for or prison camped or whatever are things that they're just living their lives doing normally. That starts to piss people off pretty bad, but I hadn't heard much about that, and I don't know how they get the message out.
And last week, they were, and this is what the article continued. It talks about what I mentioned earlier about what was mentioned about him last week. It says some elements of Motaba Kiamani's sex life have been reported before and may lend credence to the allegation. A classified U.S. diplomatic cable from 2008, published by WikiLeaks, described Motaba being treated in the UK for impotence, though that report did not identify what may have caused the condition. The State Department file says Motaba married relatively late in life, around age 30, reportedly due to an intimacy problem, treated and eventually resolved during 3 extended visits to the UK, Wellington and Cromwell hospitals in London. He was expected by his family to produce children quickly, but needed a 4th visit to the UK for medical treatment. After a stay of 2 months, his wife became pregnant, the leak file said. So, yeah, I mean, this guy...
So, he went to basically a Iranian version of a Pray the Gay Away camp?
In England, yes.
In England?
Yeah.
Okay, go back, and is him going to England 4 times for intimacy issues, was that our intelligence that put that forward, or did the Iranian government be like, yeah, we had to send him over there because he...
Our intelligence reported that, and then it was I guess proved, it was verified it was released, those cables were released in a WikiLeaks dump in 2008.
Oh, okay. So I just in my head, I thought like the Iranian regime was like, yeah, we had to send our boy over there because he couldn't get it up, and we're working on it so he can make more mullahs for you guys, but we had to send him over there to get that sorted. That would be the most embarrassing press release from a regime.
It says the allegation of homosexuality was eluded in a CBS News report on Sunday that said the elder Kiamani, who had ruled in Iran since 1989, preferred a different successor in part because of an unspecified issues with Motaba's personal life. His father and others suspected he was gay, and that was something that people were spreading to try to stop his ascension, one of the Post sources explained. Homosexual conduct is illegal in Iran, though the government does not allow surgical sex change operations, which some gay men reportedly are pressured into undergoing to avoid criminal penalties. Sodomy is the capital offense in the nation of 93 million people, with some gay Iranians infamously hanged from construction cranes as a warning to others. In Iran, we don't have homosexuals, former President Ahmadinejad, who is believed to be an ally of the younger Kiamani, claimed in 2007. One of the Post sources said that although it's generally frowned upon to cut out people in their will, there's a clear case of hypocrisy to justify doing so against Mutaba. If there was ever a time where it was okay to out somebody, it would be when it's the leader of a repressive Islamic theocracy that hangs gay people by cranes, the person said. And again, it talks about his whereabouts and status of his recovery from the February 28th airstrikes remain murky. So, I don't know. Very interesting.
I mean, from both sides of this, from both the United States and the Iranian side, the effort to control the narrative with both factual reporting and straight up lies or misdirection is interesting, because it's, us, they could easily say that the whole him being gay thing is just us saying stuff to discredit them. It could very well be true. They'll just say it's a lie, because unless there's like a video or like a taped confession or whatever it may be, and even then they'll probably not show it or smear it. But everyone's trying to have the moral high ground, or just try to be out in front of it. And him being, I didn't know that about, his dad not wanting him to do it because that was an issue. That's the first I've heard that. And that does give it, if there's like I'm sure the people in power knew that because he would have talked to them. I'm sure that didn't make it to the street level, that like the supreme leader of, 40 something years didn't want his own son to do it because he thought that he might be, something that he's killed a lot of people for, but let him get away with. And that, and him being hurt versus not being hurt, in a coma, not in a coma, where he is, where he isn't, him giving the speech or not giving, like the cardboard cutout with his head on it, and then a speech that he didn't even pre-record.
Bizarre.
It's one, if you pre-record it, like I would get it if you're like, I don't want to be in person on a live broadcast where they can find out where I am and blow me up. But if you want to like dispel the idea that you are in a coma, then at least give like a pre-recorded video or a tape recorder, throw that on there, like whatever it may be. But like just having somebody else read it next to a very shoddily made like Amazon box. Like when I first heard they had a cutout of them, I thought it was like those old ones that you'd see at like Sports Authority of like Dan Marino. It was like the full body, and they actually just cut a box and stuck a picture of his head on it. They like cut a box like robes, and I thought I thought they had like a cutout made, not they made one like it was an arts and crafts in fourth grade. It was a bizarre choice in a very like globally televised moment. It wasn't like they were like, no one's going to check in on this. Like, no, it's going to lead a lot of news stories. And you're like, it'll be great. Let's just take this Amazon box. We'll stick his head on top, make it look like a robe. It'll be real elegant. And then we'll just read it for him. No one's going to ask questions. That'll prove he's alive. Like, all of it is about trying to muddy the water so nobody knows what's going on. And we can fight about the amount of fights that have happened around this conflict that ended up not being true on either side. We've wasted so much energy fighting about just rumors or things that aren't true or are true. Like the thing with the school is worth actually having an answer to, because if that was us, we need to figure out what happened. If it was them, we need to know what it is. But being upset about it without knowing what actually happened doesn't actually hold the parties responsible to account because you're not putting the actual guilty parties, feet to the fire. You're just saying it could have been them. It could have been them. And then half the people are acting 100% certain it was the Iranians. Other people are acting 100% certain that it was the other side. And that's where it gets murky. Well, we will catch y'all after the break. Thanks for being with us.
This is Coach Tredaris Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird & Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back in the middle of it. Thank y'all for being here with me. I'm Jeb Hart. I'm happy to be here. Clayton Harris in the studio. How are we, Clayton?
Doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. I'm looking into, at the break, I was looking into the thing with the Kurds, and I know that you had said that Trump had stated that they weren't going to be involved. Yesterday said that they've entered into Iran, but not under. Some say it's a coordinated push facilitated by the U.S. airstrikes at IRGC border positions. But I don't know if it's plausible deniability or just saying that they're doing it of their own accord and they're taking advantage of the fact that we did blow up those border, positions to go in and we didn't tell them to. But, yeah, I think that it'll be. Sorry, I've been trying to read this and then talk out loud. Yeah, I don't know what the game plan is. I'm interested to see how that shakes out because to me, it felt like the reasonable way to do it, to not have Americans on the ground, to have local forces who were motivated to do so enter in, and then as they made their way through, to help kind of arm the populace there because they are unarmed, as we've discussed many times before. But I mean, historically with the Mujahideen and Al Qaeda and everything else, we've ended up arming people that ended up shooting those same guns back at us, not in the not too distant future from when we handed them over. So there's always a level of danger in it. But if it's a political third rail to have American boots on the ground, then it's not worth us getting involved. What do you think about if they should or shouldn't push that, or if they're trying to just distance themselves?
I wouldn't put any U.S. troops on the ground. I think I said this last week. I would get Saudi Arabia, some of the other big dogs over there in the Middle East, to say, hey, we're doing you a favors by controlling the skies. We've hit all their big sites. We need you guys to go in and finish it off. They're your neighbor. You're the neighborhood watch. We can't be the neighborhood watch. We've come in and help. Now you got skin in the game, and you gotta finish it off. And hopefully,
I mean, and
that
having
was planned out before all this started. I would hope that was the case.
Well, I'm sure that they would have been floated before that, but the idea that they were going to just shoot rockets at everybody in the area, I don't know how much we thought that was going to be the case.
I don't think anybody really expected that. Like you said,
and that certainly has galvanized the Gulf interests around getting this. So like now they're more motivated than they would have been at the start. So I think that can. I mean, I don't know how much Saudi Arabia would be invested in. I mean, if they keep shooting at them, then I don't see why they wouldn't just go to Karg Island and do what they need to do, because they're capable of, especially the island portion, they can get on there and make sure that it's, under wraps and it's taken, buttoned up and nothing goes awry. But I think before they were shooting rockets at them, they would never have done that because they're like, we're not going to interfere. Y'all can do what you want to. Don't use our bases. Like they tried as much as they could to be on the sidelines and tried to be Switzerland, but then they get shot at and then, it all goes awry. So I think now that they're motivated, I think leveraging that's important because we don't want to send in a bunch of Marines from Iowa to try to mesh with the Middle Eastern people who we don't know enough about. We've seen how that goes. It needs to be by the people who understand the area, the region, the people, what's best for the region, not us. And I think giving them the opportunity to take the reins of their own future is helpful. But the people of Iran don't have, we're trying our best to, but given how totalitarian that regime had been for so long, they don't even have the means by which to resist that government because they've been systematically stripped from them for so long, which is why I think that the Kurds coming in and opening up pipelines to potentially bring in, small arms, weapons and things like that to where the resistance could actually be meaningful would be a major pipeline in and not allow us to do it. But for Trump to say that he didn't want any of the Kurdish involvement is interesting to me.
And again, it could just be some type of posturing for some reason that we don't know about.
Yeah, because if you said that, just to make it sound like it's not true, because it's similar to the thing that he told Tucker that he, relayed on to, because that one, I hadn't heard that version of the story. I know that Tucker and a few of the other people on, the alt, I don't even know if it fall under alt-right or how people have moved definitions these days.
They're
but
just anti-Israel, really.
Yeah, I mean, Candace Owens
she's a nut job. Candace Owens.
She went off the rails really fast.
She's got some major mental issues. Like something's not right.
I always, years ago, I liked her enough. She wasn't my favorite person ever, but like she did these, panel debates where she was pretty in the middle of, like, pretty centrist on things and really data backed and, looked at, history and statistics and, demographics and numbers and laid it out pretty cleanly. And I never had a problem with that. But it went from, talking about historical discrimination as it, actually manifests today and how all of those things through numbers aren't as big of a deal as we think they are. And it was all well back to Brigitte Macron is a dude who's that.
And she's getting
it went
sued,
so fast.
She's getting sued for that too.
Yeah, I mean, and she was like so confident on it being the case, like invited all this stuff, and the Macrons didn't handle it great when they could have just produced the stuff to be like, all right, let's stop this, but they didn't, help themselves in any of that. But her choosing that hill to die on, and now, I know she's being,
and now with the Charlie Kirk stuff, man, she's really gone down that rabbit hole.
The Charlie Kirk stuff and Erica Kirk, like throwing her under the bus about all of this stuff. Like, I don't mind anybody asking questions about anything, even if they're seemingly ridiculous. I have a problem with people asking a ridiculous question and then answering it in the same sentence and then saying, let's dive in and we're going to research why I'm right. Not let's figure out if this is true. Like they have the answer on the front end and then try to cite, because the Charlie Kirk thing, I think there's stuff, worth looking into, especially with the trial coming up with the guy that did it. There's a lot of loose ends and him hiding the gun, him jumping off but not holding it. Like, there's a lot of questions that I think are reasonable to ask. But when people jump to, I know what the answer is, now let's reverse engineer, that's where it gets dangerous. And she went so fast down. I don't know if it was a jilted lover thing or she had something with Charlie or didn't like Erica.
It would appear that way, at least on her end, that she had some type of feelings for him. That I mean, it's this whole situation has made her lose her mind, in my opinion. She's just off the rails.
There's also a version of it that could also be true, which is that she didn't lose her mind. She just recognized the monetary gains you could get from really hammering into a fringe and being the mouthpiece for. So you could be one of many in the reasonable exchange of ideas, or you could be the megaphone in the corner. And the people and everyone flocks to the one person with the megaphone in the corner who's saying the things they want. They engage with that more regularly. So maybe she just saw the business model when she was out on her own and decided that, journalistic integrity on the fringes of the internet is not that valued of a commodity. And if I'm wrong, whatever, I'll move on to the next thing. At least, I can frame it as I'm out here pursuing truth or trying to get to the bottom of these things or whatever, version she says to try to legitimize all of that. And with Tucker Carlson in his I think a lot of the stuff he's talking about that he gets like flamed for, like when he's talking about going to interview Putin and talking about how safe it felt in Moscow or St. Petersburg or whatever, and then some of the stuff he says about Qatar and Dubai and all that, like the end result of all those things might be the case because like Dubai is beautiful when you go there. It's safe when you go there. It is a borderline slave state. I mean, because the actual Emiratis, who are citizens of the UAE who are allowed full rights of citizenship, it's a very, very small number. It is almost entirely ran on the ground level, from like sanitation to people working in kitchens and all that, by Nepalese, Indian, and Tibetan like migrant workers whose passports they steal and put in safes when they come over to do work. So yeah, it's really easy to have all of those nice things when you don't pay for labor and you kill people for dissent and people are in line. It is very nice, but it's not something that's replicable here unless we want to have like, capital punishment for rudeness or not adhering to, government laws. Like the streets are very clean. They had to clean up the blood from when they caned people for, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But he talks about it in a way that just highlights the positives and never addresses like how they got there and why those are problems or the underlying things. It just kind of glosses over that when he talks about Russia or Qatar or UAE. And I think he's kind of gone down the Israel has undue influence over the United States thing. And I think there are always fair questions to ask about the Israeli alliance that we've had for so long. And AIPAC funding always comes up when it comes to politicians and how they vote in the Israeli lobbies and all those sort of things. They're fair questions to ask, but when people jump to conclusions way too quickly, I think it makes the actual reality seem so conspiratorial when the reality is a lot simpler. We've always wanted a stable Middle East. We've always wanted oil. We've always wanted control. They both want that. And they've been at war forever with people we've been at war with. I mean, they've been constantly under attack since they were founded post World War II. And, it's the only democratic, run place in all of the Middle East. And so we happen to have our interests align. And we've tried to do that for a while. And I don't think they forced us to do anything when people are like, he's a puppet of Putin or a puppet of Netanyahu. First off, you got to be one or the other. There'd be puppets of two people with conflicting ideas. But when you jump to this conspiracy version of, Israel is pulling all of the strings for the United States, you start to lose credibility if you can't point to why that is. And that being anti-Israel, you can be anti some of the things they've done, some of the policies they've had, but I think it's gotten way too conflated into them being some massive evil that's controlling the United States. Seems a bit far-fetched without any of the, backing behind it. But people are allowed to say it pretty loudly that Israel is an evil place. Like, it's the one religion you're allowed to just openly smear, because Israel's a country that happens to be Jewish, but Iran is a country that happens to be Muslim. That one is beyond reproach, even though they've done a lot of things. Israel's done a lot of things, but they are not above reproach because the religions are allowed to be scrutinized differently or held to different standards. So, it becomes something different.
It's just like Mr. York, though, on the show. He said it again this morning, and I don't know how many times it has to be said. Well, North Korea's got a nuclear weapon, and Russia's got nuclear weapons. I agree. The difference is, though, they don't use religion as an excuse to kill innocent people. It's not the radical Islam, man. I mean, that is the difference between the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and that type of government and North Korea. Like, those folks believe if they kill themselves along with others that are, the infidel, they're going to get rewarded for that. So if they had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't hesitate to use it whatsoever. So,
but there's also the idea that they have it. like once you have it, you don't get to knock on the door politely and say, all right, hand it over. That was fun while it lasted. You give it here now. Like once you have it, you have the ability to shoot it.
Yeah.
It's stopping it before you get it. And you're right in that, the religious doctrine behind the utilization of an atomic bomb is justified differently in a place like Iran than it would be in Russia or North Korea. But also the difference is stopping them before they get it is way different than taking it from them once they have it. Those are two completely different conversations, because if you can stop them from making it, but once they have it, they can just use it, and you can't stop that really. So that's what you're trying to get out in front of, and they're very different conversations. So you can't just say, why don't you just go take it from Kim Jong-un, huh? Why don't you do that? No, it's a very different situation, but we can get more into that when we get back in our last segment. Thank you very much for being with us.
This is Coach Tredarius Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
You got to come out. I felt so good. Went on boogie just the same. Boom, 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 boom. Gonna shoot you right down off of your feet.
Welcome back into the last segment of In the Middle of It. Jeb Hart here with you. Happy to be here on this Monday. Got Clayton Harris in the studio. How are we, Clayton?
Doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, I want to end this on a little lighter of a note. Yesterday was Championship Sunday, and we got the full March Madness bracket out. There's a few, some bid steals, some things to look out for, some storylines, and otherwise wanted to kind of get your thoughts on anything of note that happened yesterday, and kind of your thoughts on it. We can kind of go through who we would have winning it or some of the other major questions we got going, but wanted to get your thoughts on the jump.
Well, I didn't get to see a whole lot yesterday. I was able to keep up with the Vanderbilt-Arkansas score. Obviously, Arkansas won the SEC tournament. But I think Arizona is going to be very tough overall. I think you can put Michigan and Duke in there as well. After those three,
I would have said Florida until they got killed by Vandy.
Exactly. They were my favorite going into the SEC tournament, not just for the SEC tournament, for the NCAA tournament. They had won 12 in a row. And then Vanderbilt just absolutely destroyed them in Nashville. So maybe they bounce back. Maybe they get going again. But Arizona's lost 2 games all year. I think Duke's lost 2 or 3 games all year. So it'll be interesting. And that's why it's March Madness, man. Anything can happen. I just read where Alabama had a player arrested this morning for having he was found by West Alabama narcotics officers with a pound of pot. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Aiden Holloway, a transfer from Auburn.
Well, it's Alabama, so it's not going to matter. They had several people with issues with the law, and then after Oates went out there and said that having people from the D League was just tantamount to like peeing on the grave of college football, basketball, and then he did the same thing with a guy who had just been playing on a G League team like a week before.
Yeah.
Re-enrolled. So he is just a swirling torrent of hypocrisy. But the Vanderbilt thing, they turned themselves on and lost last night. For y'all out there, I went to Ole Miss. And I'm an Ole Miss fan. We were bad at basketball this year. We only won 4 conference games and took Arkansas to overtime in the semifinals, and we're kind of rimmed out a shot to win it in the last second, which was out of absolute nowhere because we had no business being in the tournament. And, given how, we almost beat Arkansas and Vandy had some trouble with them, there's a chance that they could have taken advantage. That would have been a weird one. But some of the mid-major, I haven't watched college basketball as much this year as I normally do because, Ole Miss was trash, and I also lived in Memphis. Both my parents went to Memphis, so Tiger basketball is always kind of up there. They were also trash. So
yeah, how long is Penny going to survive down there, man?
I don't know. It's going to be. It was always tough because when he started, it was pre-NIL, and his name carried cachet, and that helped a lot. Now it's about just money, and who the coach is less important than what the boosters are willing to pay or the NIL structure or the collective structure. So he started when his name mattered. It matters less now. They're part of an evolution of changing how the game functions. So he's gotten a few different restarts. He's like, let's see how long he is. And also firing him at all is a tough one. I think that if he ever leaves, it'll be some mutually like, I think it's better if someone else takes over, because firing Penny would be tough, just
because
PR wise. And so I think they probably have some sort of language. It's like, we can have you can retire and say, I'm going to enjoy my twilight years or whatever, but they do need to do better. But they've just kind of floundered in mediocrity, then the occasional tournament, then back to just okay. They haven't been bad in a while, but they just definitely have not met the standard that they should. And, with teams at the top now, I mean, basketball is interesting because if you had to think right now that someone's having this debate, how many players exist right now in the NBA that if you took one player off of an NBA team, like a SGA or a
Wemby,
Wemby or Djokovic or so, how many players could you get out of the NBA, just one, and put them on a 16 team, like a 16 seed, and have them win the whole thing?
That'd be tough. I think.
But basketball is such a strong link sport that because like in football, everybody has to be on the same page. Soccer, everybody has to. That was something from a Malcolm Gladwell thing about like, in soccer, a goal normally has like 12 pass balls before a goal happens. And if one player, like the left back, fumbles a pass, the goal never has a chance to get there. So it's a weak link sport. You're only as strong as your weakest. And basketball, it's a strong link sport. Like, you're only as good as your strongest player, and they could take over. I mean, like LeBron's been on those Cleveland teams were terrible, and they went as far as they went. I think there's probably 20 or 30, especially if you talk about like rules in college basketball where big guys they get a little bit more leeway. If you have like a Wemby, and like, they don't know what they could even do about him.
There's not nothing much that the NBA can do about him.
Exactly. So I think a guy like that, you put him on a St. Bonaventure or whoever else it might be. I don't know if they have the ability to stop it, at scale. But some of these teams, when you're talking about how they structure them, you just need to be able to pay one dude who is generational enough money, and you can do it. It's different than football. Football, you need cornerbacks and running backs and quarterbacks, receivers, and you got to protect all of them. And
the one thing I think that can make it difficult for one player to come in and do that in the college game is that there is no illegal defense in college. In the NBA, they make you play man-to-man essentially. And in college, they could play a 2-3 zone. They could do
but for a big – oh, dear. Sorry, that's on me. I was trying to look up the brackets, and there was sorry for the background noise. I was trying to see who was playing who. Yeah, well, there's also no 3 seconds. So you have like a Webby who could just stand right under the basket.
There is 3 seconds in the college game.
Oh, there is now?
Yes.
I mean, there didn't used to be.
There is no defensive 3 seconds, but there is a
defensive 3 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like Wemby could just stand under the basket, and if people drove to it, there's defensive 3 seconds in the NBA where he has to move and sit out. But like, if your defense is just have Wemby stand on the arc in front of the basket during every possession, there's no alley-oops, there's no back corner stuff because he's just there, and you do that. But I think that all of these, because the NCAA right now, this is the only thing that they really still control in the way they used to, because they're out of the college football playoff game. That's handled by the CFP committee, not the NCAA. They're not in the they still give out stuff for Omaha, and that makes money, but not nearly as much as the tournament does. So this is their last, this is their big moneymaker that they still control start to finish. And they've made some changes with the play-in games and some of those, the first 4 games and that sort of stuff that I think is good for a lot of stuff, but they haven't made a ton of changes recently. And also the way that these things get picked is all kind of arbitrary. And they never have their, at least with college football, they release it so you know what they're thinking, where they are in the process. You can see how it evolved, ups and downs. Like this loss made them drop 2. And so you know like what they're thinking as it's going. You only get this at the very end, and you're like this, like it's the gospel, and they do it that Sunday, from mid-afternoon to the evening, they get everything hammered down. And it seems like a lot of moving parts to try to get there. But I mean, from all the brackets I'm seeing, I'm with you. I think Florida still has a chance, but Michigan's scary, Duke is scary, Arizona is great. But I always do love because you get Vanderbilt, who was in there, they're a 5 seed, which means they can go pretty deep in before they'd have to play Florida in the second game, but they would play the Nebraska or Troy after McNeese State and some of the others. But where the finals are in Indianapolis, which is, if anyone's never been to a NCAA, I've been to one there in Indianapolis. It is a really good place to do it. The way downtown Indy is set up for stuff like this, with like tunnels and central location, like it's really well set up for it.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to the Combine.
Yeah, I actually was up there for the Alabama-Georgia national title game in January of 22, which did not end well for Alabama. But, the only negative thing about having a game up there, specifically a football game in January, was walking out of the stadium and it was 9 degrees. That was...
No, it's cold, but they also do have a ton of like tunnels and like breezeways and stuff for when it is cold out, that do allow a lot of people to stay inside for most of it. I think we probably need to narrow down we kind of have in football narrowed down the places that host it to, because sometimes we try to force the hand of a place that's not really meant, because we want to try something new. There's a few places that are just inherently better to do it. I mean, New Orleans has done a great job with NCAA football stuff and basketball. It's a good city to have it.
Same thing with Atlanta. Atlanta's hosted Super Bowls, college football playoffs, and Final Fours.
Like Atlanta, LA, and Indianapolis, they made a very solid effort to structure it that way for those reasons when they kind of reconstituted downtown. They've done a good job. I think we run into a lot of problems when we try to just move it around for the sake of perceived equity when it doesn't work. I know the Olympics is kind of doing that now, where it's going to be like 4 cities in the world are just going to host it, because people stop bidding on it. Because after the one in Brazil, where they're like the World Cup in Brazil, followed by the Olympics in Brazil, where they're just billions of dollars in debt with unused stadiums in the middle of the Amazon and stuff like that. People are like, all right, this isn't the financial boon that I thought it once was. And they got enough negative PR for them, building stadiums that get used once in places where they had to clear out starving people to build a stadium that gets used once, and then all that money could have been used to help the people. And then they put on, the one in the middle of the Brazilian rainforest is like they built a stadium there that held more people than the town had, and now it's used as like a bus depot and is overgrown and overrun. And I think that that's something that people have gotten sick and tired of, and there's a few places that can hold it. But the NCAA tournament is one of those brilliant things we all kind of get behind. None of us know all that much about it, but it is always fun to fill out a bracket and go down that.
I got a sneaky suspicion that once this new stadium is finalized in Nashville, you're going to see some of these things coming to Nashville, like a Final Four, a possible Super Bowl, and college football playoffs or national championship.
I mean, a Final Four at Bridgestone would work great. I mean, Broadway's right, like the.
It's where the SEC has their tournament every year.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for it. I mean, a lot of the Final Fours, though, they do it like the Alamo Dome or like football stadiums that are a lot bigger. Right. Have you ever been to one that's at like a basketball game at a football stadium? It's not a great viewing experience.
It's not. I saw the Olympics in '96 in Atlanta, and they had a big curtain right down the middle of the old George Dome, and it wasn't great.
Yeah, I saw Michael Jordan play for one of his last time he was in Atlanta for the Bulls at at the Georgia Dome.
Oh, at the Georgia Dome, yeah.
At the Georgia Dome, because that was his last game coming through, and so they like made it like a big thing. And yeah, like I couldn't see, and this was before like major jumbotrons and all that. So like you're just sitting there like squinting with like opera glasses and trying to watch, but it's not for that. But we'll see how that unfolds. And over the top of the hour, thank y'all for being with us. I appreciate you being here. Until I see y'all tomorrow, don't let anybody do your thinking for you. Be careful, be kind, be good, and we